I don't think it's that unusual to hear people ask what was up with the last bosses of Persona 4 Golden. I mean, yeah, sure, you fight a god, that's normal, but after I think a lot of people retroactively realized that the Namatame fight wasn't even against Namatame, and the game keeps going after Adachi and Ameno Sagiri, it starts to feel like a whole new phase of the game has started. So I want to clarify what Kunino Sagiri and Ameno Sagiri are, from a story, thematic, and mythological standpoint in Persona 4. Izanami and Marie have or will have their own videos out. Helping share these videos wherever Persona fans may gather is a huge help. I'm sure that they'll enjoy it. I put a lot of research and effort into them. And without further pause, let's go. The first thing that I want to point out that I felt embarrassed not immediately noticing myself is Kunino Sagiri and Ameno Sagiri are pretty much straightforward translations. It's not Kunino Sagiri, it's Kuni no Sagiri, aka country, possessive particle, fog, or mist. It's essentially the spirit of the country's fog. Given thematic detail with how fog represents lies in Persona 4, the country's lies, the things the country refuses to face. Ameno Sagiri then, ame meaning rain, or ame meaning sweet, generally translates as the rain's mist or fog, but this is actually wrong. It more likely refers to a more obscure usage of ame, which in this context means sky, or more so, heaven. The usage of fog or mist in Persona 4 is representative, as I mentioned, of the blockage or obscuring of truth, the main message of the game being about the importance of seeking that truth, no matter the cost. But that's for another segment. We'll get to the meanings of the Sagiri in-game in a second, though. Instead, for now, let's cover the origin in Mythos. Kunino Sagiri and Ameno Sagiri are both actually technically grandchildren of Izanagi and Izanami. They were formed from one of Izanagi and Izanami's children, not created from Izanagi's purification ritual like many of the other characters in Persona 4. This child was O Yamatsumi, a god of the mountains, the sea, and of war. It's notable that this was before the purification, but sometime after the death of Izanami, because the supposed inciting incident of his birth was when Izanagi killed the child Kagatsui, who murdered Izanami. The timing of his birth actually makes him the elder brother of the gods birthed during the purification, such as Amaterasu and Susanoo, who are Yukiko and Yosuke. He then had 8 children with Kaya no Hime, or Nozuchi, 2 of which children were the genderless deities Ameno Sagiri and Kunino Sagiri. And there's the genealogy and how it connects to the others. Yay, yay. So what does that mean? Hopefully this doesn't just sound like a crazy list of names or whatever, and you can kind of follow what I'm saying. If you are confused, I think you'd get a better image from watching some of my other Persona 4 Golden essays, going more into the story and characters listed in mythology and who they are in this game as well. Anyway, so let's get into the character design and meaning. Kunino Sagiri, whom you meet in the Heaven Dungeon under the host of Namatame, is the will of the people in the general public, an underpinning fear of the truth and unknown that occupies the public subconsciousness, representing the ignorance is bliss mentality. The character design is a series of cogs with peace signs working as halos over the character who's holding a peace sign and wearing a shirt that says love and peace. Seeking truth is an active process, one that requires growth and understanding, and make decisions putting aside false promises and red herrings. Sometimes the truth is painful. It's something that requires change. It's uncomfortable, and people in their youth and as they age always cling to the things they think they know. They seek out things that match their personal beliefs and personalities, and take comfort in those things to such an extent that they avoid the grueling effort of finding the complete myriad of truths that make up reality, instead seeking to cling to the incomplete interpretation of their truth or their perspective without having a proper understanding of the way that the multiple perspectives converge. This desire, this natural tribalistic tendency, is Kunino Sagiri, the fog laid over the country, the lies and obstruction of the truth, that just says, just be happy. Isn't loving people and avoiding conflict a virtuous way of acting? I'm trying to help people. I'm trying to save others. I'm a good person, and I won't address any alternative. I won't seek to understand the greater ramifications of my actions. My intentions are pure. That means I'm good, right? Since that is the lie of the Kunino Sagiri. Since the mindset creates such a hug box around the self and stifles people's growth, it becomes a robotic way of living. Without personal growth, without change, how can a person really be human after all? As established in multiple of the other segments, the ego is the aspect of Persona 4 that is honed in on as the aspect that makes people human. And the aspect of ego that makes people human is their ability to grow and change. Without that, they become just a creature within human skin. The Kunino Sagiri is the robotic, blissfully ignorant will of the masses to feel happy and claim to do the right thing while avoiding the truth and control over their actions. And it's something that we all have inside of us. There's always some moral issue we aren't confronting, some idea that we avoid. It's probably impossible to expect someone to perform, or even be possible to perform, an almost never-ending confrontational, cognizant awareness of everything in the world around them at all times. But this Sagiri isn't birthed just as the shadow of that aspect innate in all humans. It becomes active when this feeling of avoidance and complacency has gripped the heart of the public and led people to deafen their ears from the hurt of their fellow man. This is driven home even more by the control move that takes control of your party whenever you're in the Kunino Sagiri fight. Through their mythological backing, story implementation, character, and boss design, I think Persona 4 did honestly a wonderful job visualizing the ideas that Kunino Sagiri represents in an almost effortless looking way. Ameno Sagiri is the mist, the foggy cloudiness caused in heaven, sometimes referred to as heaven's first fog. While Kunino Sagiri takes hold of the earth and the countries of man, more specifically Japan, obviously, the Ameno Sagiri is said to be the heaven's first mist, or the Japanese spirit of fog representing the heavens. Try as I might, I couldn't find nearly as much info on Ameno Sagiri as Kunino, and that's coming from someone who owns a copy of the Kojiki. But it is my inference, based on the little I could find, that its role in the story, or what it represents, is this. Ameno Sagiri seems to be the heaven to earth, so to speak. If Kunino Sagiri is the distorted fog of the people of earth, let Ameno Sagiri be the will of heaven on the earth. The heavens and holy beings fighting against the truth, decisions, and free will is a common theme expanded upon in countless other Megami Tensei titles, with law normally representing the heavens, and even seeing the loyal followers of law forfeiting their free will to an all-knowing god. However, this isn't Yahweh. And while it's a spin-off, the way Mythos works in Persona is vastly different from Megami Tensei. Still, I think since the Kuni and Ame no Sagiris are aspects of Izanami in Persona 4, and the story of Izanami deals heavily in averting your eyes from the truth, and the punishment for avoiding to do so, but since this connects to her will as a god over the protagonist of Persona 4, who uses Izanagi, and over mankind as a whole, who she sought to snuff out, was multiplied under Izanagi, it makes sense to say that Ameno Sagiri is the will of God, or at least the will of the goddess, Izanami, on the people. That was kind of wordy. It was hard to even read, to be honest, but I hope it made sense. The character design and battlefield are fought in reflections of that idea as well. First, while the Heaven Dungeon is this otherworldly depiction of heaven, the final stage of Magatsu Inaba takes you literally into the sky far above Inaba, where you can see the city far below you. So, over Inaba, in the heavens, a giant eye observes the people's actions. Then the design continues to this sort of condensed ball, and seems to represent underwater sea mines, specifically moored naval mines, even down to the shape and types of extrusions. They fit the look pretty naturally of Ameno Sagiri. When the cutscene starts for the fight, the image also focuses on the mountains behind them, possibly a reference to the parent O Yamatsumi, his father, god of, among many things, but most primarily, the mountains. Then the notable move of creating fog so that the player can't hit Ameno Sagiri makes sense with the fog theme, obviously. I don't even think I really need to go into that. Another move, Nebula Oculus, refers to the far-off clouds and colorful forms of being beyond our galaxy, and Oculus refers to, obviously, any round eye-like opening. So for an attack from the eye of the fog god in the heavens, I think it's basically copy and paste for how that applies as well. Within Persona 4, Izanami created and disconnected beings of herself to act as avatars for different parts of herself. Avatars to judge and take action over the world. the view of humanity from the fog of heaven and the will of the people to accept the fog themselves. But as is justice, it is not the right of the masses or the individual to force a life someone doesn't want upon them. To use your free will to take the free will of others, there is no logically consistent way to establish that as right as a fellow human. And as a god, well, in the spirit of JRPGs and Atlas games everywhere, that right doesn't suddenly bestow upon you either, just because you're more powerful and take the title of God. I hope this was insightful analysis and didn't break your brain or make you want to throw up all over the place. I had fun making it, as well as all of the other segments, and I hope you enjoyed hearing these different aspects, explaining the Sagiri, what they represent, where they come from, what their names mean, and how they play into the thematic message of Persona 4. The full thematic message, the story of Izanami, and plenty of other connections will be given, or have already been given, in their own separate videos and segments in this series, so if you haven't already, please subscribe, like, comment, tell me what you're thinking. Tell me, man. I've spent hundreds of hours working on this series. I didn't do it for nothing. Please, please. So be on the lookout. I'm posting these analyses either weekly or bi-weekly, and I want them to reach as many people as possible. It's a lot of work, after all, so I appreciate your help, and if you want any sort of behind-the-scenes stuff, you can subscribe to my Patreon. If you want to talk to me personally, you can also subscribe to my Patreon. I was going to say you could follow me on Twitch. You can do that too. Please check me out on Twitch. Bye-bye.